4 races remain in the International GT Open for 2025. The first of them to come from the Red Bull Ring. We're in the Styrian Mountains for 60 minutes of GT3 action. This 4.326 kilometer circuit, 10 turns, 7 to the right, 3 to the left. And there was drama aplenty yesterday with 4 different manufacturers fighting for the overall win in slightly different conditions. Significantly cooler than it was yesterday, slightly warmer from qualifying, but as you can see, still only an air temperature of 17 degrees. So things shouldn't be too hot and bothered inside the cockpits, but there is still plenty of action to come with 2 Pro-Am cars lining up on the front row of the grid, and then another intense pro battle behind. It is only 3 points at the head of the overall championship, and if you were to apply the drop scores now, it is tied on points in both the Pro-Am and the Am standings, with 4 races left to decide them. It's Chris Stevens up here in the commentary box alongside George Morgan. George, very much looking forward to this one. The big news though, post-qualifying, Christopher Haase with his best lap time deleted for a track limits infringement.
Which puts them on the back foot, Chris. And good afternoon to one and all around the globe as we now get set ready for race 2 of the weekend and bring an end, actually, to our time at Red Bull Ring. Because, of course, we will not be coming back next year with the calendar that we have seen provisionally. But, of course, you never know what the future may hold. So a very special race, certainly in the offing, as we now get set to race through the Styrian Mountains once more. Giacomo Altoe, of course, on top for Ferrari this time, joined by Dragon Racing Stuart White. It's an all-Ferrari affair up on the front row, and certainly it's been a strong weekend for the Ferrari manufacturer because, of course, like we've already declared, it was a victory for Tommaso Mosca and Carl Bennett in yesterday's race. A fantastic performance. However, that fantastic performance has landed them with a 20-second handicap that they've got to serve during the pit stop. So while they do start on the second row of the grid, they may be put on the back foot, I think, by and large. But they are met with Dean McDonald. McLaren, obviously, very well represented. But if you look at Ferrari themselves, plenty of names inside this top 5, if you include Tom Empson as well for Elite Racing Ferrari. And a big shout out to the combination of Jaden Kelly and Josh Ratkin in their first weekend here in the International GT Open. They've qualified strongly again, top 7. And I must say, no handicap this time. They could be a force to be reckoned with.
Certainly podium contenders as they were with their first pro car this time last year with James Cullen and Dean McDonald. Plenty of new entries to bring you up to speed on, one of them starting on pole position. Baron Motorsport victorious in the Pro-Am category yesterday with the number 92 car. It's the sister number 91 that starts on the front of the grid. But Dean McDonald here heading in the right direction after what has been a very difficult few races on that side of the Greystone garage. Yesterday it was all talk about the number 27 of Josh Ratkin and Jaden Kelly in their first weekend of GT3 racing, but it was that car that came out on top. Tommaso Mosca overcoming a 15-second handicap in order to take the victory. Tom Empson with a late lap time being deleted in qualifying, starts a little bit further back than they'd ideally want, and hopefully no slow punctures for the elite squad. We saw Tom Leben peel into the pits early. Car collection still represented well at the front of the field with Alexei Nesov at the wheel for the start of the race. No Alex Fontana or Hash this weekend. A personal commitment for the bronze driver, meaning he won't be taking part this weekend. But there is Jaden Kelly, his first weekend of GT3 racing, coming from the McLaren Trophy European Series. And he and Josh Ratkin taking to this car like a duck to water.
Yeah, Estonian Ralph Aaron will be commencing life on P8 on the grid ahead of our next outing here at Red Bull Ring, getting set, and obviously the nerves, the butterflies kicking in, I'm sure, for various drivers on this roster. And with Mikey Porter from Optimum Motorsport McLaren. Of course, Optimum have had great results here at this circuit in the past. And also in this championship in itself. Mirko Bortolotti, the reigning DTM champion, looking to line up and put in a strong performance to try and give Oregon something to smile about. It's been a very tough weekend for them at a track where they've held so much success. Here is our championship leaders coming into the weekend. That though, is under scrutiny now because there has been a point swing with Christopher Haase and Simon Riker still very much in the fold, and I think actually do have the points in their favour as of now after yesterday's race result.
Yeah, 3 points ahead, but if you were to apply the drop score, it would actually be Levente Reves ahead by a single point. I make it anyway. This is where Christopher Haase will now be starting. He qualified on the front row with the grid, but that lap time being deleted for track limits infringement, and so Christopher Haase, the new championship leader as of yesterday, going from 13th on the grid. His title rival Levente Reves going from 11th. Carbahn by SBS, they will be hoping that their race goes a little bit further than turn 3 today. It's Yannick Mettler who'll be starting the number 54 machine, and this is yesterday's Pro-Am winner. Eduardo Bacci stormed through the Pro-Am order after taking over from Philip Barron, who's filling in for Masoud Jabirian this weekend, and it was this car's second in Pro-Am yesterday from ISR, which is a one-car outfit for this weekend. They were due to have the number 23 car of Christian and Jirko Malczarek back with them, but that car was damaged in qualifying. Aaron Walker and Steve Yance, for the first time this season, didn't score points in the Pro-Am category yesterday, and they are now 1 point behind Valentin Pierberg and Dominic Baumann at the head of the Pro-Am standings. But again, if you were to apply the drop score, they're absolutely tied on points, as are Gino Forgione, Michele Rugolo with Mark Sampson in the AM category as well. Still all very much to play for, with 2 races in Barcelona, and then, of course, the double points Monza 500 to kick off, to round off the 2025 campaign.
Yeah, still some chapters left in this season. Obviously, we got Lucas Dunner, Fabio Babini, Anthony Bartoni put on a stout defence yesterday, Enzo Garassi as well, Valentin Pierberg, Marcin Jedlinski, Marco Polcino on his return only in McLaren Machinery, Raymond Voss, Louis Michael Dorbecker, Christian Paulsen, Antal Zygo, Darren Kell, Michael Blanchimont, Amir Naran, Gino Forgione, Alfredo Hernandez, making up the rest of the order on the grid, with the BDR Group of Prom featuring at the back.
Let's remind you what happened yesterday. It was Max Hesse who started on pole position. The Racing Trevor BMW, Tom Leben, went around the outside, and there was contact in the middle of the pack with Tsunami getting turned around. But dramas with the championship leader, Maxi Gertz, picking up a puncture early doors, as did Tom Leben. He ended up bailing for pit lane with a slow puncture. It was Max Hesse who led out to the front of the field after Leben was forced to yield that lead, having taken it off the circuit. Great battles with Josh Ratkin fighting for second place with Carol Bash. Max Hesse handed over the BMW over to Antal Zygo. This was the moment where Anthony Bartone took the lead, and Tommaso Mosca took the podium place as well. He ended up trying to pass Antal Zygo in the middle of the circuit as well, making that move into turn number 7 with Jaden Kelly trying to make the move there as well. He would go through into turn 9, swinging the back of the McLaren out, but it would go down to the final lap of the race where Tommaso Mosca round the outside of Anthony Bartone at turn number 3 after several attempts to overtake, making it back-to-back victories for Tommaso Mosca and Carl Bennett after their victory in Paul Ricard, their first triumph, and now they've had their second one. That keeps them just inside the championship fight, an outside chance, but this is how it looks going into this race. Levente Reves lags behind at 3 points after not scoring points yesterday with that puncture and subsequent damage that was suffered in the early stages of the race. Haase and Riker now go into this race in the lead of the championship on East Talent's home soil. Race 2 here at the Red Bull Ring, about to get underway. 60 minutes of racing. Here's how they line up. It's Giacomo Altaway in the Baron Motorsport Ferrari on the front row of the grid. Stuart White making his debut in the Dragon Racing Run car alongside him, both in Pro-Am. Dean McDonald, best of the pro runners in the Greystone McLaren. Tommaso Mosca, yesterday's race winner, starts alongside him for AF Corsa. Then comes Tom Empson, late lap time being deleted in qualifying. Alexei Nesov in the car collection Porsche is 6th. On the fourth row of the grid, Jaden Kelly on his GT3 debut weekend. Ralph Aron in the Get Speed Mercedes number 82 starts in 8th position. Mikey Porter for Optimum Motorsport goes from 9th. Mirko Bortolotti also had a lap time deleted in qualifying. He goes from 10th for Oregon. Levente Reves, the pre-event championship leader, alongside Christian Korzanowski, the top AM runner for Olymp. And then Christopher Haase, qualified on the front row, but starting 13th after a lap time being deleted. Yannick Mettler alongside him in the car barn by SBS Mercedes. Eduardo Bacci and Philippe Salacado harder. The top two in Pro-Am yesterday for Baron and Team ISR respectively, starting on the 8th row of the grid. Aaron Walker, the pre-event championship leader in Pro-Am, starts alongside Lucas Dunner from Motorpark. It's a pair of Mercedes on row 9. Then it's Fabio Babini. Johannes Zelgo got spun round yesterday. Then Anthony Bartone going from 20th in the number 9 Get Speed Mercedes. Enzo Garasi in his GT3 debut weekend as well, alongside Valentin Pierberg, the new championship leader in Pro-Am from SBS. Marcin Jedlinski in an Olymp Ferrari this weekend, not the Audi. And Marco Polcini, yesterday's AM winner, filling in at Garage 59. Riemann Voss on his first appearance of the season for Motorpark, alongside Lewis Michael Dorbecker in the BDR Gruppo Prom machine, goes from 26th. Then it's Christian Poulsen, that team making their debut. It's the two BMWs alongside each other with Antal Zygo. That car was starting on pole position yesterday in the hands of Max Hesse. Darren Kell in his first European race weekend goes from 29th. Then it's Michael Blanchemont in the Santaloc Audi. In 31st is Amir Naran in another Get Speed Run Mercedes. Gino Forgione, the AM championship leader, goes from 32nd. And then at the back of the grid, it is Alfredo Hernandez, the BDR Gruppo Prom Mercedes. 33 cars, our biggest starting grid of the season. And a fantastic mix. 7 different manufacturers, 13 cars in the Pro category, 15 fighting for Pro-Am honours, and 6 in the AM category. A mixture of Mercedes, Ferraris, McLarens, Audis, Lamborghinis, BMWs and Porsches ready to fight.
And 4 Ferraris inside the top 5. So it's going to be interesting to see how that demographic develops as we make our way through the course of the race. Obviously, keep your eyes peeled as well on the Porsche of Alexei Nesov, sat down in P6. Obviously, in Pro-Am class, be looking to try and attack the likes of Stuart White and Giacomo Altoe. Of course, that is the class battle as we're currently seeing it. I'm expecting big leaps, though, from Dean McDonald and Tommaso Mosca. Tom Empson with an extraordinary performance in qualifying, obviously putting himself in 5th place. But what can Haase do, obviously, from where he currently sits in 13th? East Lent need a result here in race 2 at their home weekend.
Interesting dynamic with 2 Pro-Am cars starting at the front of the field. Of course, they'll be handing over to their bronze drivers in the second part of the race. So those cars we expect to fall down the order, and for the Pro runners to make their way through to the front of the field and fight for the overall honours. Big dynamic as well with Dean McDonald and Tom Empson going into this without handicap, but that red 51 Ferrari will be doing so. What will happen when the lights go out as the cars gingerly make their way out of the final corner, the 2x2 formation. The red lights are on. When they're extinguished, we'll be racing. Here we go for the second time this weekend at the Red Bull Ring. Lovely start from Giacomo Altoe. Absolutely blitzed it off the line, and he leads going into the first corner. Dean McDonald challenging Stuart White on the inside for second position. Both of them run off the circuit as a result of that. Very tough to get 2 cars side by side through there, and already dramas for Riemann Voss by the looks of it. He looks like he's going slowly out of the first corner. This is Mikey Porter's view of the Jaden Kelly Greystone McLaren. Still it is side by side for second, with McDonald getting that move done, and Mosca trying to follow him through into turn 3 as well. Still cars having to utilise the escape road on the exit of 3. Kozanowski ended up taking some grass down there as well. Philippe Salacada getting involved in the fight underneath the pre-event championship leader, Levente Reves, in that Motorpark Mercedes. But there is McDonald in second position. Mosca through into third. And that looked like Alexei Nesov just picked up a little bit of gravel, which is going to open up the door for Empson and for Aaron, maybe for Bortolotti as well, with Aaron having to go around the outside at turn number 6. Empson's made his way through. It's still side by side between the Porsche and the Mercedes, which kicks up a little bit of gravel, but eventually it is Nesov who just about holds the position into 8.
Yeah, smart start for the 2 pros. Up at the top of the shop, obviously McDonald now registering in second as they cross the next sector stripe. Mosca into third as well, with White now diminished down to 4th, just in front of Tom Empson, as now once again it's going to be Nesov dueling with Ralph Aaron on the run down through towards Red Bull Mobile curve. Unfortunate start for Yannick Mettler, who has now dropped down to 18th place. Now 19th now as Fabio Babini moves in front of him. This time, remember, he started on the same row as Christopher Haase, who is now currently sat, as we're currently looking at it, now inside the top 10. So a great start for East Lent Audi. Remember, just outside that top 10 battle, and there comes Riemann Voss pulling off to the inside. A really tough getaway, and it looks like it's just got worse.
And it's slap bang on the racing line as well, so I'm sure race control will be hovering over the safety car button, and a press of that will neutralise the race. side by side with Reves and Bachi going side by side. Yellow flags are out at turn number 6. Oh, Bachi going way off the circuit. So that does allow Reves to go through and might even allow Philippe Salacada to go through as well. Those two had a great ding-dong in the Pro-Am fight yesterday for top honours. And it was the Ferrari that came out on top. On this occasion, it's the Audi. But the Lucas Dunner-driven Pro-Am Motorpark Mercedes just in that fight as well. This is where the yellow flags are.
Still very close to the track. I just want to say as well, Haas has just passed Jaden Kelly as well for P9. So that will register hopefully very shortly as we now make our way through. And yes, indeed it does. So coming through towards Sloshgold, Haas are with the upper hand and now making a huge run as two. Of course, Haas being a former factory driver for Audi. Bortolotti, of course, we've seen him frequent Lamborghini for many years. And off goes... Oh my goodness, Darren Kell in the McLaren 720 Evo GT3 into the gravel trap. So there's two cars stricken on the racetrack.
Yeah, so that looked to be down at turn 6 as well. And race control not going to take a very good view of him falling off the road where there is a yellow flag. So that's two cars now at turn 6 that need recovering. Darren Kell in his first appearance here at the Red Bull Ring, and the safety car has been called for. So we will neutralise the race at the start of lap number 3. And so Jakob Artway will lose that slender advantage he had of just under 1 second over Dean MacDonald. So that gives us an opportunity to reflect and just see Riemann Vos has actually been able to get going and has just made his way back into pit lane. And also coming into the pits is the Poulsen BMW. It's Christian driving the car, two-time Le Mans winner. Now, what is this about a change? A puncture on the right rear corner. That's not the first time we've seen that, so presumably some contact in the early stages of the race. Of course, we're starting towards the rear of the field where it tends to get a little bit more argy-bargy. And so a fresh Michelin on the car. Here's a look at the race start. Again, Altway just left Stuart White absolutely for dust there, who I believe is in his first race in Europe, a multiple champion over in South Africa, and he's just been welcomed to the continent very nicely there, with Altway leaving him and MacDonald stuffing one up the inside there as well. This is how Philippe Salacada saw the race start. So we've got Yannick Mettler just in front of us and Tom Empson. You can see Haas making progress there as well, and everyone,
taking the escape road.
Taking the escape road because it's, well, it's easy done.
The scenic route
really.
Here at Austria.
It is a little bit, yes. I don't want to dirty the flag too much out there. And now was there contact while cars were going through the escape road, and that's why Riemann Vos ended up pulling off the road, or was there some other technical issue in there?
Oh, we'll just see it from the viewpoint of the 63 Oregon team Lamborghini. Of course, of Mirko Bortolotti behind the wheel of this one. Of course, we did see right. That's the BDR Grupo Prom that actually, I think, made contact. Now, was that Alfredo Hernandez? It was...
The red-trimmed car is the Alfredo Hernandez one, yes.
Yeah.
So they were battling over AM position when they both went into the gravel, but it is Hernandez who's been able to continue. So looks like we're two cars down in the early stages of this one, with Darren Kell's McLaren needing extraction.
Really difficult start for Michael Porter as well, down in 30th place at the
what's
moment.
happened there?
Optima Motorsport have had a bit of a horror start really to this race now, because they're behind Alfredo Hernandez right now, and in fact just in front of Christian Poulsen in the BMW. Of course, we saw that come in just now for that tyre change. So high drama already for even the pros, from pros all the way to the AM, of course, with Darren Kell still stricken in the gravel trap. At the moment, though, if we want to talk about fastest laps, I think at the moment Altaway and Mosca are sharing that at the moment, because I think they shared the same precise lap time just before the safety car came through. So that's quite an interesting fact. Two really pacey drivers, both sharing a Ferrari 296, tussling over the fastest lap of the race so far. Great start for Stuart White. Despite losing a couple of places, he is still Pro-Am P2 right now. Alexei Nesov remaining in 6th behind Tom Empson. And further back as well, credit has to go to Christopher Haase, now inside the top 10 here for the Easterland Racing team. Now, whilst, of course, a safety car on one level might be bad news for Haase, on another level, it does condense the field up again, giving less of a chance for Altaway to get away too much. He can still retain some sort of proximity to the rest of the upper field.
I think it's just bad news, George. I think for anyone who's got their quick driver in at the moment, particularly the 51, because remember, they've got to take 20 seconds of handicap as well. So if you've got significant handicap and you've got your quick driver in, then this safety car is a bit of a disaster, really. Darren Kell has been able to rejoin the racetrack. He'll be 2 laps down from the field, but is able to get going again. Might just bring that track-focused run McLaren straight into pit lane. But the good news is that there are no more cars stricken on the racetrack, and so hopefully that means that at the end of this lap we can go racing again. So a reminder, it's Giacomo Altaway who leads the way in the Barra Motorsport run car, and yes, safety car will be in this lap. It's Dean McDonald chasing him in the Greystone McLaren, followed by Tommaso Mosca in the F Corsa Ferrari. Stuart White second in Pro-Am in a similar Ferrari, then Tom Empson for Elite. Alexei Nesov, third of the Pro-Am runners for Car Collection. Then it's Ralph Aron, Mirko Bortolotti, and Christopher Haase, who have both made up ground in the early stages of this race. Jaden Kelly inside the top 10. Levente Reves still in 11th position in car number 11. And yes, I can see out the window that the Darren Kell McLaren has come into pit lane, so of course he'll be hoping for better fortune for his son when he takes over the Greystone McLaren later on. But where else have we got in the AM category? Christian Korzanowski still leading there, obviously, and Marco Polcini and Amir Naran, the top 3 there, as we are ready for a restart. 51 minutes left on the clock, and it's Giacomo Altaway's prerogative as to when he puts the hammer down. 2019 champion here in the International GT Open alongside Albert Costa. And the drone getting a very good shot of the cars making their way through the final couple of corners. Altaway has bolted. And we are racing once again here at the Red Bull Ring with Altaway leading McDonald over the line. It's Ferrari, McLaren, Ferrari inside the top 3. And it looks like Darren Kell is going to be rejoining the racetrack as well. Hopefully not in the massive pack of cars that is about to hurtle its way out of turn 1. McDonald having to take a little bit of the escape road on the exit of the first corner as we ride on board with Alexei Nesov chasing after Tom Empson in that elite Ferrari. And he's going defensive into the first corner, drawing right up alongside under the brakes and trying to get around the outside there for 5th position. And that didn't quite work out for him as Haase chases after Bortolotti. That's got all the shades of Haase versus Pepper that we enjoyed so much last year, as Nesov still trying to get this move done on Empson, who's defensive again into turn 4. Manages to hold on to the place, but lovely traction from that rear-engine Porsche out of the right-hander, draws up alongside, but again we'll have the wrong line, but that's not going to stop him trying to go all the way around the outside. Might have to take a little bit of the gravel, flirting with danger there a little bit, still trying to get the move done around the outside, and a fantastic manoeuvre there by Alexei Nesov, and Empson ends up taking some of the gravel, which could allow Ralph Aron in the Get Speed run Mercedes to find his way through for 6th position as well. And yes, by the time they get to the Rindt curve, it is the Mercedes with the nose in front, although he takes a bit of the curb there and potentially a bit of a swapper, which forces Empson off the road. This is Mirko Bortolotti's view of the battle unfolding in front of him. Remember, Christopher Haase, championship leader, right behind him as well. So Empson trying to regain some composure there. Heading back up towards turn 1, and it is Bortolotti with a move on the inside, both running off the circuit in doing so. So 6 of one, half a dozen of another there.
Yep, coming up now through towards turn 3, they're going to bang wheels on the route set. Ferrari versus Lamborghini as they now stretch up through towards the 3rd corner. Apex this time at Remus, reaching the precipice on this racetrack. Bortolotti with the inside line, looking to follow what Ralph Aron did not too long ago, and Empson will indeed, at least for now, lose out on that place, and an opportunity now paving its way for indeed Mirko Bortolotti to move into 7th heaven here in the opening beginnings of this race. And now in comes Christopher Haase, looking to do it exactly the same, and he surely does through Slosh Gold. He's still racing now further up the rostrum, but of course now plenty of work still to be done in the early goings of this race as they now come through Roche and Verth curve.
That's Empson. Again picking up a little bit of gravel there. It's now Jaden Kelly who'll be filling up his mirrors and digital display review camera. Quite a few cars licking up a little bit of gravel dust at the very least. So Nesov chasing after Stuart White now, and that is for Pro-Am position, of course. That's second and third that will end up being disputed in that category. It's two silver drivers in the car collection Porsche, but the pace of Maxim Kisilov was deemed to be more of an AM level, and he is second weekend in GT3 racing, rather inexperienced driver, and so along with the BDR Group O Pro Mercedes we saw earlier in the year, downgraded into Pro-Am. Suddenly closed up for second an awful lot between Tommaso Mosca and Dean McDonald. That Ferrari's had a little bit of turbo boost taken away from it since Paul Ricard, but that hasn't hindered it too terribly much, of course. And a lovely exit out of turn 3 here for Tommaso Mosca, yesterday's race winner. He goes side by side with Dean McDonald, now heading towards turn number 3, and has got the advantage when they get down into the braking zone. Dean McDonald not fighting that one too hard because he knows that that car's going to be stationary for an additional 20 seconds in the pit stop.
And also, unfortunately for McDonald, he suffered quite a bit of traction loss, I think, coming out of Remus corner at that time. Just got a little bit squirrely over the curb, and it really did hamper, I think, some of that momentum on the run down towards Sosh Gold. Haas are under attack, or certainly trying to attack at the moment, now going side by side, and it looks like he's now met the back of what looks to be a motorbike car now. Was that Levente
no, he's fallen down the order.
Fallen down to 14th. So what on earth has happened to Haas? Because that's actually Lucas Dunner, I think, who's also in amongst it as well. So somehow Rivette has gone through. He's now in the top 10. Haas, again, more issues for the Easterland team. Remember, Rijkaard had something similar happen to him on the opening stint in yesterday's race.
Yeah, he had a spin during his stint, and I'd be amazed if Haas has done the same, but some sort of drama once again for East Talent in this race. And so Haas are now down into... well, he's plummeting down the order, actually. He's in the pit lane.
He's coming in.
This is the championship leader. It's got to be a puncture. The rear end is squirming away there.
Rear left.
On the rear left corner, so we can just see it out the window. And this is the second time today. They had a puncture in qualifying as well on the same corner, which Michelin were somewhat confused about, but there you can see there's no rubber on that left rear corner. That looks exactly the same as what happened this morning. Extraordinary. So a puncture for our championship leader yesterday, which was the Motorpark Mercedes. Puncture again today for our championship leader, this time East Talent, and that is going to wreck their day, and the championship takes yet another turn.
And it was a slow puncture for Elite yesterday as well, so we've had a few of them. That has been the story of this weekend as well, on top of the new young drivers that we have, of course, seen rising to the forefront. But that is a bitter blow for Easterland Racing, because now, as a consequence, Levente Reversed is now into the top 10. Now, because we had that safety car brought out, it's given that motorpark car, the number 11, a great chance now to close the gap back up. Remember, they have Maxi Gertz jumping into the car for our next stint, and he had an absolutely phenomenal opening stint in yesterday's race, climbing numerous places. Now let's take a look at this now. That is Jaden Kelly in behind Levente Revesh. There's Haas in the background, and you can see that rear left. And just look, it's just dissipated. Haas are trying to fight for control of the car and squirming all around Rint Corner before coming into the pits.
Well, he was fighting for control in Paul Ricard as well. He got pitched into the pit wall.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And having to wrestle that car again today. You cannot believe the luck. And, of course, that's going to be a second non-score of the season for them after Levente Reves had his first non-score yesterday. This is just extraordinary. You cannot ever think you know what's happening in a championship here.
And listen, at the end of the day, in that circumstance, they can't afford to make another mistake for the rest of the season.
It's got to be perfect.
Otherwise, another missed score, you can't drop another one. So it will put them on the back foot if they do it again, and ultimately throws a huge opportunity now for Levente Revesh and the Motorpark team, not to mention other teams around as well, because let me just say, Elite Racing are certainly not out of it either in terms of being rank outsiders. Obviously, there is some points there to be recovered by Elite, but they are in the fray.
Absolutely, and who knows what could happen in a double points finale in the endurance race at Monza. Nesov closing on to the back of Stuart White here for second position in Pro-Am. Is also closing up for the overall lead of the race as well, with Tommaso Mosca absolutely flying out there at the moment. The fastest car on the racetrack. And so this is two real young stars of Ferrari GT racing, with Altoe racing in Ferrari Challenge last year as well, racing in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship this year, and Tommaso Mosca making the step up to international competition after a couple of years in Italian GT. Two very exciting young talents that are coming up through the ranks at the moment, dicing for the lead of this race. Great pro-am battle going on again here with Bacci and Salakada going toe-to-toe as they did yesterday, right behind the championship leader. So it's for 11th overall at the moment, but for Salakada and Bacci, it's 4th and 5th in Pro-Am being disputed. And of course, Lucas Dunner in that red and black Mercedes behind them is also a class rival in his home race as well, the man from Vienna.
Yeah, coming through now towards Roshenworth curve again. Gap still minute between Altoe and Mosca. McDonald now 1.4 back with White, though, 1 second further back, and allowing Alexei Nesov perhaps an opportunity to move into Pro-Am P2 as this race continues now with 42 minutes to run. Mirko Bortolotti also half a second away from Ralph Aaron in that ongoing battle over P6. A much more spirited showing here from Oregon here in race 2 so far. Remember, of course, they will be swapping out for their second drivers, with Bortolotti taking the opening stint. Tom Empson also swapping out for Tom Leben, who has certainly shown a great, should we say, a great level of pace in GT3 machinery after crossing over from his time in single-seaters, racing in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, also taking part in GB3, etc. He's had many experiences behind the wheels of single-seater, but the contrast moving across into GT3 has certainly been successful. Prior to that, GT4 winning the European Series with Josh Rattican, who we will, of course, be seeing in the second half of this stint as well. So the two former teammates are going to be racing against one another this time here at Red Bull Ring for race 2 as we watch them climb now up the hill through towards turn 3 at Remus Corner. There is the 63 of Mirko Bortolotti. We look inside the Oregon Team Lamborghini garage. Jerry Cannaviccio once again in colourful trousers here in this International GT Open weekend, hoping for a colourful result for his team to reclaw back that Priya-famed success that they have had. 4 wins in the last 3 times we've been here to Austria over the last 3 years. And I tell you what, after their difficult season so far, I'm sure it would be a relief victory in what has been a really turbulent 2025.
So only 0.4 of a second between the top two. Two Ferrari 296s coming out of different stables. They're A of Corsa. It needs no introduction, but the Baron Motorsport car that leads the way. It's the home race for Baron Motorsport. We said earlier that sister car victorious in Pro-Am yesterday. Interesting dynamic between these two cars. Of course, Mosca knows that there'll be a bronze driver in that car later on, but also he knows that he's going to be stationary for 20 seconds in the pit stop, which the 91 will not. It's an unhandicapped car. So that might bring them closer together again, potentially in the race. We'll see how that unfurls. Battle for second in Pro-Am as well. Stuart White, multiple champion in South Africa, making his first appearance here in the International GT Open. And alongside Collier Letlaka in the Inter Africa by Dragon Racing Ferrari. Lots of unknown quantities really up at the front of the field compared to earlier. Oh, damage for one of the Motorpark Mercedes, and that might have come off of the Lucas Dunner machine, which has gone past Eduardo Bacci for 5th position in class, and is now trying to take Salakada there as well. So this is 4th, 5th and 6th in Pro-Am being disputed by Salakada in the ISR Audi, the Lucas Dunner-driven Team Motorpark Mercedes, and Eduardo Bacci in the second of the Baron Motorsports Ferraris. And another great inter-mark battle, as well as an inter-team battle as well. So it's Salakada ahead of Dunner, ahead of Bacci.
Yeah, I've seen Bacci for a brief split moment having the upper hand on the two in front of him, but obviously that was very quickly reversed, as now we see as Christian Korzanowski comes under fire from Aaron Walker on the run down through ring corner. So Mercedes versus the Ferrari 296 this time, with Yannick Mettler also poised in the background. Christian Korzanowski, we just see there Walker running off the track wide. Now, whether he's going to be allowed to maintain any sort of positioning, he's still alongside, and a little bit of contact there between Walker.
Come on.
That's a little bit naughty, Mr. Walker, as they come down through towards turn 1. They're going to meet again, coming up through towards the first corner at Niki Lauda curve, and still Christian Korzanowski determined to fight against this Mercedes AMG GT3. Walker running off wide, and again carries through, and ahead of Korzanowski for now. We'll have to see whether the stewards agree with that, as now Yannick Mettler looks to fly uphill and take on Korzanowski himself. Also for the back, Fabio Babini Ferrari, of course, who's competed at the very highest order in sports car racing for many, many years, watching it all unfold. Here comes Mettler over the crest, runs off wide, and Christian Korsanowski now in the midst of a two-car mugging here right now at the top of the hill as they now descend through the Styrian Mountains. Babini, of course, a legend of the sports car world, at the inside looking to rubber stamp his position ahead of the Olymp Racing Ferrari 296, and does in the Porsche, and Yannick Mettler follows him through.
That's obviously a change in Pro-Am position as well between Babini and Mettler, so that's 8th now for Babini in his class. Oh, that was Walker kicking up an awful lot of gravel. Now we're going to see how Lucas Dunner made this move. Contact was there very nearly between the Ferrari and the Audi. Change for second in Pro-Am meanwhile, and for 4th position overall. Alexei Nesov in the car collection Porsche has been able to usurp Stuart White.
Just want to say as well, last warning has been given to car 6 for track limits.
Shocker.
So obviously we observed what happened through Ring Corner in towards Red Bull Mobile Curve, making... certainly they were somewhat abused, were they not? Haas are now ahead of Alfredo Hernandez, now into 30th. It really has been a really unfortunate weekend. And they came in with so much promise at Easter Lane, Chris. Remember back in FP1, fastest. Let's have a look at the moment again.
Oh, great move here by Alexei Nesov on the inside of the Rinch curve. That is brave.
No messing about there.
Fastest corner on the racetrack.
Stuart White now down to 5th as a result of that moment. So a welcome rise to P4 for Alexei Nesov, who's now 2.2 away from McDonald right now. As we watch Giacomo Altoe and Mosca once again go at it, 4/10 between them. They are 1.4 ahead of Dean McDonald, who has now got a little bit of clean air in front of him. Would ideally like to close that gap right up, though, and fight against these Ferraris. Of course, James Kell will be poised to take the seat. They need a big result, that combination, don't they, Chris?
Certainly do. You could say that about quite a few people in this paddock, I'm afraid.
When you consider the campaign that they had, I mean, when we arrived at Portimao, race winners in the first race, things did not go to plan, though, when they went to Spa with the electrical fault. Big points were lost that day, and it just seems to be a knock-on effect after knock-on effect.
There was penalties and contacts askew in subsequent races. I think yesterday was probably quite sore for them, to be honest, to be beaten by the Ratkin Kelly, by the new guys.
The new combination,
in yesterday's race. But that has changed. So, driver changes about to start. Tom Empson is the first to bail for pit lane to hand over to Tom Lebon, the taller of the Toms. And you see the change there, and also a fresh set of Michelin tyres going on. They were telling me about their puncture yesterday over a game of Uno, actually. And after I beat them, they were in an even worse mood than they were after the puncture. Philip Barron taking over from Eduardo Bacci. That's quite an early change for them to hand over from the pro to the bronze driver. Maxi Gertz taking over the Motorpark Mercedes. Poulsen in as well. Remember, that car's already been into pit lane for that tyre change.
I bet you Tom Leben probably would have turned around to you and said we wanted the reverse card for that slow puncture. I reckon before we came into the pits, they would.
Well, I think they wouldn't mind missing a turn at some point either.
Not, no. Yeah, maybe not having to come in and get it changed 10 minutes before the driver change window yesterday. But yeah, less than ideal. As we now watch as Giacomo Alto continues on the road, once again still being pursued by Tommaso Mosca, who is all over him like a nasty rash. 2 wins on the spin for this Ferrari in second place at the moment, and looking to try and topple this Pro-Am entry, but Altoe once again proving that he's more than capable of keeping Mosca at bay, and this is going to be quite a thrilling tussle between 2 outstanding Ferrari talents as they look to climb uphill again, heading up through towards Remus Corner. Of course, while Mosca could probably benefit from the tow, he's probably very much aware that he might be in better shape taking the cleaner air on the run out of Remus Corner, as we now take a look at Christopher Haase once more, who's just trying to rescue as much as they can from this race, but it definitely looks like it's going to be a struggle.
48 seconds off the race lead. Wow. They need a safety car, and they need one badly. Josh Rattican taking over the new number 27. Here comes the change for the lead, though, with Mosca late on the brakes into turn number 4, and Tommaso Mosca, about 10 minutes or so before he's due into pit lane, takes the lead of the race away from Giacomo Altoe, our pole sitter and erstwhile race leader. two very different lines into turn 6, but Mosca has consolidated the position once again this weekend, finds himself at the front of the field.
Yeah, can I say that's a timely fashion to make the overtake, because obviously, and we just heard a 10-second penalty going to car 77. As we're seeing it on screen.
Hernandez.
And that's Alfredo Hernandez. So whether that was due to the contact with Darren Kell.
Probably.
Coming through the middle sector. But great move there from Mosca. Obviously, like I said, timely fashion, because we are into the driver change window. You can imagine that Mosca's probably going to take the lion's share of the stint in this race. So it's going to be full-on pedal to the metal now, right through till the very end of the driver change window, just to ensure he can amass any kind of advantage. Remember, 20 seconds of handicap they've got to serve today.
This is side by side between Marcin Jedlinski and Valentin Pierberg, further down the Pro-Am order. Oh no, sorry, it's Karel Basch and Dominic Baumann. They've been in and changed drivers already. So that is also then Jens Klingmann right behind them. And that is another very feisty manoeuvre, this time into the final corner from Dominic Baumann. And how those two didn't make contact there, that's quite astonishing. And so Jens Klingmann now in the pro car, trying to find his way through between them as well.
That's two Olymp Racing Ferraris that have been on the end of it as well, because it was Christian Korzanowski the first time around who we saw tussling in the prior, and now of course it's Karel Basch who's receiving it in the sister car. So yeah, really hard racing, you could call it, here at Red Bull Ring.
It's extraordinary. I can't wait to see the onboard footage of that later.
My goodness. I mean, like I said about Tommaso Mosca, put him pedal to the metal, and he certainly is. He's gone purple in the first sector on this particular lap, and now has broken a second. In fact, make that 1.1 on Giacomo Alto here this time. Jens Klingmann now ahead of Karel Basch as well, and into 25th place.
Yep, so those are the guys who have come in already and done their driver change. We'll see these guys in towards the end of that window, so in about 7 minutes' time that window will close. And of course, remember the Pro-Am cars at the front of the field, they'll be handing over to their bronze drivers. So there'll be a bit of a pace change there.
Yeah, Josh Rattigan only just jumped into the car. He's just gone purple in the first sector as well. So he's now starting to lay down the fire here this time. And obviously, remember, they don't have a handicap to serve this time. So
no.
A great opportunity here for the Greystone GT pairing to maybe upset the established order that we've had in this championship for the entirety of 2025 so far.
Schiller's 15 seconds behind them, so he did have 5 seconds to take after finishing second with Bartone yesterday, but he's got a bit of work to do to close down that gap to Gertz and Rattigan in front of him, and Tom Leben as well. They're in much closer proximity. Of course, we've already had we've had a pit stop for Mikey Porter and for Christopher Haase. So when we were wondering earlier what happened to Porter, he must have come through pit lane. I can only assume for the same reason everyone else has done, because he had a puncture on that Optimum McLaren. So another compromised race there as Portalotti trying to chase after Ralph Aron. Got two factory drivers, Linus Stern there. And that's Ralph Aron actually bailing for pit lane to hand over to Marcelo Ramirez.
Ramirez will take the seat now in the Mercedes-AMG GT3 as he Ralph Aron brings the car down to the acceptable pit limiter, and making sure the speed is consistent with the rules in place here at the circuit now, as he looks to come in and serve his time in the pit stop. And Marcelo Ramirez ready to jump into the car with seat at the ready, and will assist Ralph Aron getting out, and Ralph will assist him getting strapped in ahead of their final stint now with just under half an hour to go. Such an important moment as we get closer and closer to the checkered flag here at Austria. At the moment, Mosca doing a tremendous job. Alto A now gapped to 1.5. Dean McDonald 1.8 behind as well. And now we have, look at this.
This is the AM lead.
Yeah, the AM lead battle now encroaching. This is, of course, the Garage 59 McLaren 720S that is being utilised by Marco Polcini and Mark Sampson. Of course, Polcini not in Ferrari technology this weekend. He's driving the McLaren machine.
I think, actually, sorry, there might be eventually tussling for lead. I think they're actually a lap apart.
Yeah.
Sorry, on closer inspection. There's Marco Polcini in the McLaren, who's yet to box They just happen to have come out right next to each other on the racetrack. So it's Michele Rugolo now at the wheel of the AF Corsa Run car, because those are the two cars fighting for the AM Championship and come into this race tied on points after a difficult day for the AF Corsa pairing yesterday, where they only finished 6th. So there is our race leader, Tommaso Mosca, now 1.9 seconds to the good on Giacomo Altuve, trying to give himself every possible opportunity to minimise the impact of that 20-second handicap, so that when Carl Bennett takes the car over, he doesn't have so much work to do. I feel like he's still going to have an awful lot to have to do, but yeah, you see the pace progression there, half a second on that previous lap.
And it's not the only time he's lapped nearly half a second. He did it on lap 18 as well. He has been absolutely rapid as Tommaso Mosca. We'll wait and see, though, how this is going to affect him. Enzo Grassi now coming in with Robin Rogalski looking to step up here this time around in the 19 Oregon car. Mirko Bortolotti, of course, doing the lion's share stint for the other sister car from this team, as well as they look to change the tyres. And I'm sure many of the drivers will be relieved to see that tyre change as well. It does seem to be the case that they're struggling to manage the on-track affairs here on the Michelin at the moment. Of course, it's very much about pace, as it is as much about tyre preservation. Remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint, essentially, even though we call this probably a sprint format in the realms of GT3 racing, as we now see them fly down through the final sector. This is your race leader, Tommaso Mosca, again planting another 10th on Giacomo Altuve once more. It was 2 seconds flat, it's now 2.1 and continues to grow. Dean McDonald is actually maintaining the pace on Altuve at the moment. If you actually have a look at the laps last time out, we've just seen Dean McDonald cross the stripe, just mere hundredths in McDonald's favour. They are literally matching near enough to the 10th. Almost, as we now watch them fly uphill once more. And this is the gap. Dean McDonald actually reining it in over the last 2 laps. He was 93 thousandths down on lap 19, but 25 thousandths up on lap 18. But the most gap actually gained was in lap 20. So you never know, they might meet towards the end of the stint.
It's Fabi Schiller making progress there on the 88. So that's unlapping himself against Stuart White there, because Fabi Schiller's obviously come out of pit lane. And it's very easy to lose a lap here because it's a shorter circuit. So Schiller trying to unlap himself there. The best placed car that's already done their driver change is Tom Leben in the Elite Ferrari, closely followed by Josh Rattican. And then Ramirez, Gertz and Schiller. So we'll see where the leaders come out in relation to that. Steve Yance now aboard the Get Speed Mercedes, the number 6 machine, and Mark Sampson taking over from Marco Polcini. Just over a minute and a half left on the driver change window. And so cars now bailing for pit lane because they're not going to get another lap in. So Tommaso Mosca, Giacomo Altuve, Dean McDonald, Alexei Nesov, surely Stuart White, Mirko Bortolotti and everyone else, all the top 10 cars who haven't stopped yet will have to come in this lap.
Yeah, Josh Ratkin actually taking pretty much 3 to 4 tenths of a second a lap out of Tom Leben at the moment. They're now moving up the order as now more and more cars come in to make their changes. This is the race leader now undergoing that now. Carl Bennett hopping into the car and in place of Tommaso Mosca after his brilliant first stint, after overtaking Giacomo Alto just prior to coming into the box themselves, because they had a few laps where they could build up the pace, grow the gap to beyond 2 seconds. Fabian Schiller now past Zach Meekin as well, who swaps in place of Mikey Porter. Of course, they had their own issues, we believe, coming into the pits to very likely serve a tyre complaint. As we now see also the 33 coming into the box. Of course, we're coming into the final moments of this driver change period. 37 seconds remain, no question. Seeing now Simon Riker stepping in for Christopher Haase, and the Easterlent Racing Audi now making its way back out onto the circuit. Or coming in to serve its driver change, incidentally.
The last box all the way down the far end.
Obviously being champions currently at the front end of the pit lane, but closest to the escape, as now the Baron Motorsport car, now being driven by Ernst Kirkmeyer, that led the start of the race after commencing on pole position, will now rejoin the circuit. And in amongst it, Tom Leben goes by, and as does Josh Rattican, who's now within a second, Chris.
Yeah, but look how much Carl Bennett has lost. He's tucked up behind a Motor Park Mercedes, which can only assume it's the Heiko Neumann one. Yes, it is. Wow, that's the effect of the 20 seconds there for Carl Bennett and Tommaso Mosca. So Bennett, the Thai American, will be on it. I'm sure he's got a bronze driver in front of him, so I want to clear that fairly quickly. But it's James Kell.
Yeah,
in the Greystone McLaren, who's come out in the lead of the race. Of course, he was the second of the pro cars and is ahead of Tom Leben on the racetrack by 2.1 seconds. It's game on here between the Pro-Am runners. Heiko Neumann about to be passed here by Steve Jantz. And so that is going to be for 4th position in Pro-Am. But this is the leaders. It's Greystone 1 and 3 actually at the moment, with Ratican closing up an awful lot on Tom Leben here.
Yeah, I was saying he was actually closing 3 to 4/10 of a second a lap on Leben coming through. Remember, Leben and Ratican were teammates in the GT4 European Series Championship, later going on to win the title. Well, Ratican, in his first official race in GT3 competition yesterday, really giving a grand account of himself, and he could yet go further here. Of course, we've seen some terrific McLaren drivers come through the fold this season. For example, Tom Fleming and Marvin Kirkhofer, who came in together. Tom Fleming, of course, who came back from a back injury, later winning both races at Hockenheim Ring. Now we've got another moment between two GT drivers.
So that was contact between Neumann and Jantz. Well, when we saw that change there. But look at it, these two great friends who are title winners together in GT4.
Oh,
and suddenly
I
thought this would happen eventually. I didn't expect it to happen in their second race where they were going to be going toe-to-toe together.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Big dive on the inside here from Artem Petrov to get round Maxim Kisilov
Lovely
for
move.
5th position overall. And so the 63 moving up there and closing up so much for 2nd place now. And it is Ratican, remember, his first weekend in GT3 racing. Obviously, Tom Leben in his first season of GT3 racing, but has been with us for the full season. And the 2 GT4 champions of last year, the teammates who lifted that trophy together, are now rivals out on the racetrack. And their friendship is going to be tested here, I would say.
I would say so too. This is the look of Artem Petrov's move up the inside. Obviously, Mirko Bortolotti doing the first stint, and Artem with a lovely send up the inside through towards Remus corner, dialing it in nicely. And now Kurtz in the car through over the crest. But now let's rejoin this mighty fight. I'm sure that if Greystone GT are watching this, are hoping, first of all, if Ratican is going to go for the move, he gets it done cleanly. And equally, they can stop the count after moving ahead. But Leben now rising up through turn 1 at Niki Lauda curve has now got to lay down the foundations of a defence. Maxi Gertz has just moved into 2nd as well. There is Dexter Muller now being met by the BMW, the 500. I believe that's now being driven by Max Hesse, who's behind the wheel of this one, currently in the Pro-Am fight, but down in 30th place. Remember, of course, they started on pole position for yesterday's race with Hesse in the car. There is Zach Meakin now coming under fire also as they come up through towards turn 1. A very busy stretch of road now as car number 20, driven by Dominic Baumann, not only swoops past Zach Meakin, but through past Dexter Muller. So now looking to sweep through the field now this time as they climb up through towards the crest of the hill at turn 3, where they'll meet Remus corner. Dexter Muller now being met by Zach Meakin. Will Meakin go for a late send up the inside, making the most of the brakes on this McLaren 720S GT3? Will indeed curtsy the car through. Muller has no answer against Zach Meakin, who will convert that into a higher spot.
Right, so it's 20 minutes left on the clock. This is all happening with Muller in 9th position in class and is about to be passed here by the 777 of Carol Bash as well. So actually will fall down to 10th position in class, maybe even 11th with Philip Barron waiting in the wings to go past him as well. But it's 20 minutes left. And James Kell's lead has come down while he was getting that car up to speed. And so the gap 1.2 seconds as we see Barron try and make that move on Dexter Muller and does squeeze through in turn 7. So it's Kell, Leben, Ratican at the front of the field. In Pro-Am, Ernst Kirkmeyer leading the way in the car that was started by Giacomo Altaway in 4th position overall. Maxim Kisilov for Car Collection is 2nd, and then it's Steve Jantz, Colin Larka and Heiko Neumann all in close proximity for 3rd, as well as Libor Milota as well. In AM, it's Mark Sampson for Garage 59 who leads ahead of Michele Rugolo, so that would be a change for the lead in the championship there. But crucially, it's Simon Riker down in 26th place. And where is Maxi Goetz? Up in 6th. So they would most definitely be retaking the championship lead as it stands.
But even so, the rest inside the top 10 and not yet Matt Dexter Muller going round, coming through the final couple of corners here on the racetrack now as we rejoin the front 3. Obviously, this is the P2 battle we're currently watching. Tom Levin and Josh Rattigan, the former teammates, now becoming on-track competitors. Looking at the lap times, though, the top 3 is now we see James Kell just lapping the Alfredo Hernandez AM car for BDR Grupo Prom, and now it's going to be the turn of Tom Levin and also Josh Rattigan to do the same. But the top 3 are the only ones inside the top 10 at the moment that are lapping in the 129s. Everyone else 130s or more at this stage, as now Levin looks to do exactly the same as what James Kell managed to muster in. Josh Rattigan doesn't want any delays either. He wants to ensure that he can just track and follow Levin up through turn 1 at Niki Lauda curve and now rise up the hill. But the question is, does the McLaren have any answer for this Ferrari straight line speed that has certainly been on show for many, many occasions, as now the 13 Mercedes comes into the pits of Raymond Voss as they look to assess the issues that they've got at the moment as they come through out of Remus corner. Now Schiller now up a spot as well ahead of Letlarka. Now this is the 88, now if I'm not mistaken, the 88 of Ernst Kirkmeyer. I do apologise, no, yeah, of course, Dragon Racing, Kalila Letlarka. Just having a bit of a tie-up there in the middle sector. But so far, Levin just fending off Rattigan for now. The gap's still coming down, though, crucially enough, between Ps 1 and 2.
Yeah, so that's Schiller trying to get back up the order. In fact, just passing Libor Milotta there as well. So he's got a bunch of bronze drivers in front of him that he's trying to clear for overall position. And then that's Jens Klingman trying to do the same as well against Kolja Letlarka. What a day this is turning into for Greystone, though.
Massive.
It could be first victory
Be a 1-2.
since the start of the season. It could well be a 1-2 finish. Even yet a double podium would be something extraordinary. Their first weekend with 2 pro cars. I mean, remember a year ago when Dean McDonald and James Kell first arrived in the championship, how proud Greystone was to be able to say, we've got a pro car in this championship. It was such a huge deal for them. Here we are 12 months later, now 2 of them on the grid, and both of them could be finishing on the podium here today and may even yet be a 1-2. We'll see what unfurls in the next 16 minutes.
I mean, they've made some strokes of genius as well in the past. We look back at Monza last season where they decided to go against the grain and opt for a tyre that was more effective in the wet weather. And at the end of the day, managed to flourish with a 40-second advantage and take the opening lead, and that essentially bringing them that race win. As Tom Empson looks on, obviously pensively watching Tom Levin at the moment. I can imagine the nerves are there. Of course, remember, this team combination won their first race back at Budapest.
Team coordinator Steph in there as well. Sure, very eager to see where these 2 young guns come out. This is Dominic Baumann making up more places in Pro-Am, going past Kolja Letlarka. So that is Baumann up to 6th position in class. That's a points-paying position in that category. So we've got Zolga and Barron all over the curb on the exit of turn number 3.
Migalski's
Up there. So yeah, so that's what's that, 18th, 19th, 20th and 21st overall, but 7th through to 10th in Pro-Am as well, if you ignore Regalski, which of course is a pro car. So it's 2 Ferraris up against the Porsche, and Zolga trying to make the move down the inside into turn 6. Nothing doing there. See the 2 BMWs line astern, but unfortunately Max Hesse 2 laps down on the rest of the pack after dramas for Antal Zygo in that the early stages of the race. And then this is side by side now, Steve Jantz making up a move there on Marcelo Ramirez. That's for 9th position overall. Jantz still sitting pretty 3rd position in Pro-Am, and I'm sure we'll be hoping to utilise Carl Bennett ahead of him to have him chase after Maxim Kisilov, which is about 5 seconds up the road and a class rival for Jantz, as they look to undo the damage of their first non-score of the season yesterday. Philip Barron through on both of those cars. Further down the order. So who have we got here? Philippe Salacada. Oh, sorry, no, it's Libor Milotta now driving the ISR car with Jens Klingmann right in front of him. That screen could do with a clean, couldn't it?
I was going
or
to
a
say.
tear off. Oh, that's the BMW through of Max Hesse, that must be.
You'd be forgiven for believing that it might be raining outside, I think, by looking at that windscreen. But obviously, maybe some dirt collected. I think some of the dust you might get off the gravel, which we've seen quite a few times through the course of the weekend. There was actually a close moment as well for Rattigan and Leben. They were 1,000th apart coming across the stripe for a split moment. So it must have been the case that Leben was just trying to marshal off the attack at some point on circuit. I've got a feeling it was done in the first sector, as now we see side by side again. As in through goes the Paulson car, the 95 BMW of Jens Klingmann, who now makes his way through as well, and Max Hesse doing the same past the 65. So Jens Klingmann moving up ahead of Heiko Neumann. That's P12 going his way. And of course, we do, have the Max Hesse car looking to try and move its way back up through the order, but essentially unlapping himself as well at this stage. The 33 of James Kell still leads the way, though, however, still 1.2. If anything, the gap has grown now between those inside the top three, or certainly between P1 and P2 anyway. Leben now, I think, feeling the threat more from Josh Rattigan as opposed to James Kell at the moment.
Big smile on the face of Jaden Kelly. Couldn't ask for a better weekend of GT3 debut, could you? Alongside Josh. Just so impressed by these youngsters. Two different stories, of course. Josh coming from GT4, as we talked about, but Jaden Kelly coming from the McLaren one-make series, and hasn't been racing all that long. Only started karting in 2021. Just graduated from school, and was chatting to his father, David, about what his plans for the future are. Going to focus on racing for a little bit before taking on studies in mechanical engineering. Pro-Am battle on once again with Dominic Baumann moving past Libor Milota, so that's now 4th in class. And so that now means that the top two in the championship in Pro-Am are Linus Stern in class, 3rd and 4th. So again, very close between SBS and GetSpeed in terms of the championship and where they are in the order. And so that's getting past Heiko Neumann into turn one. First of all, the move from the ISR Audi of Milota, and then Baumann following him through into the first corner. We rejoin the leaders. It does look like it's closing up. The timing screen, it's almost like it's lying to me. The gap visually looks smaller.
Well,
I mean, it's about 1/10 smaller.
In all fairness, though,
dramas for Khalil Letlarka down at the penultimate corner, and that is beached,
yeah,
I'm afraid. So yellow flags out at turn number 9. This could be a second safety car intervention, and oh no, it's contact with Lewis Michael Dorbecker and the BDR Grupo Prom Mercedes, pitching the Ferrari into the gravel, and it gets beached out there. And so, unfortunately for the South African, his day comes to a premature end. Just under 11 minutes left on the clock. We can get a quick extraction under safety car. We can close things back up again. Artem Petrov has taken 4th position overall from Ernst Kirkmeyer, by the way. And Maxi Gertz has followed him through as well. So Kirkmeyer, the Pro-Am leader, down to 6th position overall. 8.7 to Maxim Kisilov in class. And then only about 2 and a bit seconds to Steve Jantz, but with Carl Bennett in between them as well. No sign of a safety car just yet, as this is Carl Bennett going through on Kisilov for 7th position overall.
Yeah, so excellent work there from Carl Bennett. Now up into that P7 spot. Only 9 seconds, though, needs to be found on Kirkmeyer, but definitely achievable in the next 10 minutes, you'd think. Heading up the hill now once again. Bennett is now confirmed on our timing screen, up into P7 as they cross the sector stripe. Now, going back to the time that was lost in gain, I just want to say Tom Leben now within a second on James Kell, and that's for the first time that we've witnessed that. It was a 1:29 over the last lap for Tom Leben, a 1:30.030 for James Kell, and in fact Josh Rattigan also just outside of the spectrum on James Kell as well, but getting dragged along by Tom Leben, remember, as well. And they are half a second apart, just over 4.5 tenths between Rattigan and Leben right now, but it's just immediately jumped out to 1.1. So Kell finding an extra groove inside the first and second sector. Well, saying that, the first sector was better for Leben. The middle sector, again, though, was better for James Kell. So they are currently swapping sector times, and I would say that's more of a declaration in that first sector of that Ferrari straight line speed. The middle sector more about the corners, which is where the McLaren tends to favour.
1.5 seconds covers the top three with 9 minutes left on the clock. It's James Kell leading the way for Greystone. The other youngster, Tom Leben, in the elite Ferrari. Both chasing a second victory of the season. Meanwhile, Josh Ratican waiting in the wings, the GT3 debutant. Also from Greystone, and that is just an epic picture. That is one for the wallpapers, isn't it? 8.5 minutes left on the clock, and Leben is starting to just eke into the advantage of James Kell, but he's in a sandwich here. There could be some tactics for the Greystone guys that they can play here. Right, we've got Schiller making up further places. He's now inside the top 10. Baumann moving up to 12th position ahead of Marcelo Ramirez there, and Zach Meakin making a fine recovery, actually, for a car that came into pit lane in the first stages of the race. So, also a reminder as well, the other car that came in, Simon Riker, only up to 23rd position. So we are going to be seeing yet another change for the lead in the championship as Klingman tries to get around the outside of Fabi Schiller. Now, you're going to have to wake up very early in the morning to try and do that on the Mercedes factory driver, but this is for the last spot inside the top 10 provisionally. They do still have bronze drivers in front of them to round up, which you imagine they would be able to do in the closing stages of this race, but there's no overtaking into here because those yellow flags at turn 9 are still waving.
Yeah, we've also got a nice battle between Petrov and Gertz now starting to erupt as well, but we go back to the top three because this is going to be the scrap of the century, you would think, here at Austria. Certainly here in the International GT Open. Kell, Leben, Ratican, two McLarens with a Ferrari stashed in between with 7 minutes to go. A lot can happen in that time frame at the moment. James Kell holding his own at the top. Greystone now with a chance to take an incredible 1-3 or maybe even a 1-2 come the checkered flag. They'll want to make sure they see this through, however, and I'm sure there's going to be great respect on show between both Leben and Ratican as two former teammates, but Ratican knows that he's here to make a difference, here to make an impact in his first start this weekend. Zach Meakin now being met by Libor Malotta and some tyre smoke as well coming off the rear right now. I think that might have been more about a lock-up, some debris as well flicking off one of the cars as well as they make their way down through towards Slosh Gold. That's Marcelo Ramirez at the head of this. Of course, Meakin trying to take him on for P13 on track, with Libor Malotta also fighting for position, going wheel to wheel with Meakin now on the escape, coming out of the section this time. We've got a yellow flag currently still raised at turn 9 right now as they sweep through now. Back at the inside comes as well Carol Bash, I think. Whoa. That is at the inside, the Ferrari 296 GT3 car, the 777 through, and Zach Meakin now also powers through on Marcelo Ramirez and grabs P13.
Now, for a second, I was worried that they had another puncture, but
just a lock-up, I think.
I think it's just the bodywork rubbing up against the tyre very briefly, as there was some contact down there. Right, Ramirez shutting the door on Carol Bash there, who's currently 5th in Pro-Am, and the car directly behind him is one he really wants to keep behind him because it's a class rival, Libor Malotta, and so making the overall position gain here on the start and finish straight, which would be for 14th position overall. Goes through into turn 1, and Ramirez with the car now on the outside as well. Now that's going to be disputed because Malotta very much took that place off the racetrack and is now going to try and use that momentum to go around Carol Bash as well. So if that does get looked at, he might have to lose too. Well, he's backed out of that one and immediately giving the place back to Ramirez. Very wisely done. Philip Barron right there behind them, as well as which of the motor parks is that? It's the Heiko Neumann car with smoke coming out of the back of it, actually.
Yes.
And that it could be coming off of...
it's the rears. It's the rears, I think.
Well, that's I think that's coming out of the exhaust, actually, so that could be a significant engine issue for Heiko Neumann. The number 65 car pulls out to the little escape road down at turn 4, and yeah, it's billowing out of the exhaust, so a major mechanical failing there on the Mercedes. And so yellow's now at turn 4 as well, with 4 minutes left on the track. Oh, what does race control do with this one?
There's oil on the track at turn 4 as well, I think, as we can just see on our screens as well. So just a warning sent out by race control. This is the side-by-side moment. Of course, this is Zach Meakin coming toe-to-toe with Marcelo Ramirez. A little bit of contact as they made their way up through towards turn 3. Of course, Marcelo Ramirez with the upper hand there. Also a little bit of contact with Vibor Milota. Obviously, that's the rubbing on the rear right.
I don't know how that's happened. It wasn't contact. So
yeah, no, it was happening on its own. I mean, very rarely would you see a lock-up, I suppose, in GT3 racing with the power of ABS, etc. But
we just saw, by the way, as well, the change for second position in Pro-Am. Steve Jantz getting on the inside of Maxim Kisilov into turn 3.
Yeah, well, there is, of course, Heiko Neumann, his car coming to a stop. I suppose the one benefit of what he's done there is that we could avoid the safety car with him now being pitched off safely to the escape. So hopefully it should all be okay as we now watch as James Kell looks to make his way through more lap traffic.
Yeah, and that was a real awkward moment there because he doesn't want to overtake into this yellow flag zone, even though he is lapping someone.
Well, exactly.
You're not allowed to do that. The fact that there's oil on the road is a little bit worrying, but 3 minutes to go. This could be the moment. This could be the change for second place. Ratican has got the speed advantage onto the start and finish straight as they try to round up the back marker and into the inside of turn 1. It is now a Greystone 1-2 with 3 minutes remaining.
How canny are you? That was genius from Josh Ratican. Picked his spot and he caught Tom Leben unawares. But Leben's not going down without a fight. As they climb the hill now, coming up through towards turn 3 at Remus. Ratican may hold P2 for now, but that could all change on the run down towards Slosh Gold. A switch back on offer, and the Ferrari straight line speed has been asked to call as they now make their way down towards Slosh Gold again. The two former teammates in the GT4 European Championship are now going to meet once more. Who's going to be last on the brakes? Coming down into Slosh Gold again, it's the elite racing Ferrari. Tom Leben usurps Ratican this time around.
But that's a yellow flag zone. Surely he's got to give that back.
Well,
they were absolutely level going into the braking zone. Surely he's got to give that place. Mum and Dad watching on there, the Kelly and Ratican clan. Well, but I think Tom's got to give that one up.
He
passed him into a yellow flag zone.
Yeah, yellow flag at turn 4, and obviously, and that's yellow flag from turns 4 to turns 9. Actually, was saying
that's just turn 4 and 9.
Well, yeah, and 9 as well. So but at the end of the day, yeah, absolutely spot on because Slosh Gold is the prevalent point of issue. That is turn 4. So, yeah, very controversial one. We will, of course, await any word from race control and see whether Leben, of course, does give the place back. Of course, regardless now, James Kell 2 seconds up the road now, Chris, so the battle for the lead, the win, could well be over.
Yeah, I think penultimate lap of the race just starting. It was a few seconds shy of the last lap board being shown there, so we've got a couple of laps to try and sort this one out. I mean, it's not like either of them were very clearly ahead before getting into the braking zone. So I don't blame Tom for just trying to make the move stick still. But nonetheless, that is going to be disputed, I'm sure. Ernst Kirkmeyer there in the lead of Pro-Am still has been passed by Carl Bennett, so now 7th overall. 4.7 over Steve Jantz, so that should be a healthy advantage. Here come the chasing pack with Kisilov 3rd in class with Schiller and Klingman for close company. And so let's see if Ratican can pull another move. Again, he did need the assistance of the back marker to get that move done into turn 1 initially, but there is still every opportunity. We're coming up to the final lap of the race now. 30 seconds left on the clock. Pretty much at this point, no question as to who's going to be winning. It should be a second victory of the season for James Kell and Dean McDonald, but what order are the podium finishes going to be in?
Can you believe it? As well as the first time since Portimao. That is absolutely extraordinary. Obviously for James Kell, this will be, I'm sure, a huge weight off both he and Dean McDonald's shoulders, and I'm sure I'm going to be celebrating hard when they enter Parc Ferme in a lap or so's time, as now they fly through the first corner, running wide of the apex there. Tom Leben
saved that one up, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely right. Obviously James Kell now with a little bit of a gap to find, 7/10 of a second now as they climb the hill up towards Remus. The gap has come down a little bit, obviously as a result of that wide moment from Leben, just trying to gather some extra speed to close up to the back of Kell, but I think more in line of defending against Ratican's attempts to take this P2 away from Tom Leben to instill a potential Greystone GT 1-2. But regardless, they will be proud of what they've achieved today, will the Greystone McLaren team, because they have their sights on a double podium. On the first weekend, they usher in 2 pro GT3 entries such as this. Remarkable stuff.
Absolutely astonishing. All the way back at the start of the season, it was Dean McDonald and James Kell who took the victory in what looked to be the favourite for the championship. Since then, it's been reliability woes, contacts, penalties, nothing seemingly going their way. But finally, the stars have aligned for them, coming back into the last yellow flag zone, so definitely no dramas from behind. And for the first time since the very beginning of the season, it will be James Kell and Dean McDonald for Greystone who take victory here at the Red Bull Ring. And for the British squad, a double podium finish for the first time ever. Astonishing stuff, with Tom Leben and Tom Empson joining them on the podium from Elite. Maxi Gertz will give Levante Reves the championship lead back with a 5th place finish. And it should be Ernst Kirkmeyer across the line to win the Pro-Am battle. And Maxim Kislov should just hold back Schiller and Klingman for overall position across the line. And so it is back-to-back victories for Baron Motorsport between their two cars in the Pro-Am Championship. An absolutely fantastic home weekend for the Vienna-based squad. Simon Riker about to cross the line on a very dismal day once again for East Talent, also on home soil, trying to get Marcelo Ramirez at the line, but that's not going to happen. And it will be Michele Rugolo who takes the AM Championship as well. We've got last lap contact here between Ramirez and the Robin Rogalski Oregon Lamborghini through turns 6 and 7, and the contact there with Riker as he tried to get around the outside. Did very well to gather that one up, but a round of applause for Greystone GT, their first ever double podium finish in the International GT Open.
Yeah, and what a fantastic result it is too. On one level, the recovery after the disappointments that have come thick and heavy for them. They were early on in the championship hunt. Take us through the classification, Chris.
So it is, for the second time this season, Dean McDonald and James Kell who take the victory ahead of Tom Leben and Tom Empson, and the first ever GT3 podium for Jaden Kelly and Josh Ratican. Mirko Bortolotti and Artem Petrov finish 4th ahead of Levente Reves, our new championship leader, Carl Bennett and Tommaso Mosca in 6th. And then it is back-to-back victories for Baron Motorsport, this time Jekama Altway and Urs Kirkmeyer in the Pro-Am category. Getspeed retakes the lead of the Pro-Am Championship with Steve Janssen, Aaron Walker second in class, and a first podium for Alexei Nesov and Maxim Kisilov, with Fabian Schiller and Anthony Bartone completing the top 10. Jens Klingman just outside there for the Paulson team, with SBS Pro-Am car 4th in category. But down in 18th position, Simon Riker and Christopher Haase. A very difficult day for our pre-race championship leaders. AF Corsa take a historic 7th victory of the season in the AM category, with Gino Falchioni and Michele Rugolo beating Mark Sampson and Marco Polcini. Amir Naran once again on the podium in that category. We lost Darren Kell with a trip through the gravel. We lost Heiko Neumann late on. We lost Koleo Letlarka after contact, as well as Stanislav Jedlinski and Riemann Voss, as we now join the celebrations in Parc Ferme with Dean McDonald already with James Kell, and big smiles on their faces.
3 British flags on the podium, which
That's the
is
second time this season.
yeah, unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, credit to the youngsters again. They've become the story once more, this time at Red Bull Ring. James Kell and Dean McDonald, a Cinderella story in itself, given the problems. We mentioned those, obviously getting a congratulations from Alfredo Filipponi. We'll be hearing from both James Kell and Dean McDonald very shortly. I'm sure they'll be absolutely thrilled with that one. And again, at least some kind of respite after the struggles this campaign. But Greystone will have all smiles on their face. What a combination they have at their fingertips with the likes of Josh Ratican and Jaden Kelly. Tom Leben, obviously, they'll be back. Both he and Tom Empson, they have had a phenomenal run here leading up to this point. And I'm sure it will long continue with a very exciting round to come at Barcelona. Of course, we will be back racing for our final Race 1 and Race 2 format for a weekend this season, because we head to the big race at Monza at the end of the campaign.
It's 3rd position and a first ever GT3 podium for Jaden Kelly and Josh Ratican. A double podium finish for Greystone. Tom Leben and Tom Emson once again stand on the podium for Elite Motorsports, their first season in this category, going from strength to strength. For the second time this season, though, it is James Kell and Dean McDonald finally back on the top step of the podium.
Dean McDonald, James Kell, it's been a while. We haven't seen you here on P1, but now it's on.
Yeah, it's nice to be back. Yeah, it's been a long time, so yeah, just glad to be back on the top step with me and James. And yeah, the whole team put in a massive effort last night to get us to this stage, so yeah, happy for everyone.
It's been a great race with a great fight at the end. All British drivers, by the way, but you held the fort.
Yeah, no, it was an amazing drive. I'm really proud of the team for what they did overnight, changing the engine and getting us back in the game. I think we've had our struggles the past sort of few rounds. But yeah, I think we're starting to go back on that upward trajectory and finding more pace in our car. So yeah, really happy, and really happy for the sister car in P3 as well. It's a double podium for...
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well done, guys. Good day for Greystone GT.
Let's look back on the last 60 minutes of racing. It was Giacomo Altoe who led from pole position, with Dean McDonald getting up to second position at the start of the race in the Greystone McLaren. We saw early contact between Alfredo Hernandez and Darren Kell. That left the track-focused McLaren in the gravel trap, for which we needed a safety car intervention. Mirko Bortolotti made progress in the early stages in the Oregon Lamborghini, as we had side-by-side here with Tommaso Mosca making his way into second place ahead of Dean McDonald. Yesterday's race winner, trying to counteract the 20-second handicap they'd be serving. But dramas once again for the championship leader, Christopher Haase, with a left rear puncture, mirroring the puncture that their title rivals suffered yesterday. They would fall well down the order as a result of that. The Pro-Am battle continued with Maxim Kisilov making great progress, but it was Tommaso Mosca who hit the front before the driver change window, and he ended up handing over to Carl Bennett and dropping far back because of that handicap, and Ernst Kirkmeyer would come out in the lead of the Pro-Am battle. James Kell emerged at the front overall, though, with Tom Leben and Josh Rattigan for close company as Artem Petrov made progress. And it was a second victory of the season for James Kell in the Greystone McLaren alongside Dean McDonald for the first time since the very first race of the season in Portimao. It is their third ever victory in the International GT Open, following on from the GT Open 500 at Monza at the end of last year. And so in the championship standings, Levente Reves does take the lead of the championship back by 3 points. And Tommaso Mosca and Carl Bennett are very much in this fight, as is Tom Leben and Tom Emson. 14 points between 4 cars, still with 3 races to go, including the double points finale in Monza. And so we will go to the podium shortly. You can hear the names already being called. It is for the first time Josh Rattigan and Jaden Kelly. Look at the smiles on their faces. That is incredible stuff, and a double podium for them. Just unbelievable.
Yeah, a great result, and obviously marking 2 Greystone cars on the podium now is onto the top step for the second time this campaign. Go Dean McDonald and James Kell. Leben, Emson in second place will be back as always. Want to give a big shout out as well to Artem Petrov, who finishes in his highest placing this campaign.
The only non-Brit on that podium is Jaden Kelly, and our cameraman, but that's a different point. Jaden Kelly, the Australian, but British drivers across the rest of the podium, and that has got to be the sweetest feeling. Their first GT3 silverware.
And they're going to build on this, Chris. Obviously, looking ahead to next year, if we get a chance to see them back again next year with Greystone, I think that's going to be...
I hope we do.
That's going to be
really, really hope.
And I'm sure maybe even Tom Leb and Tom Empson, if we can get that combination back, as well as a few others.
I would love to see all these young guns we've had back a year under their belts. What a title fight that would be. For the Toms, it's a 4th podium of the season for them, going from strength to strength. And great to see Dean and James back on the top step of the podium. And, of course, the Greystone representative taking the team's trophy. And, what a rewind from a year ago where they first arrived as a pro entry in this championship. And that is quite the photo for them and for British Motorsport, of course. It's the second time this season we've had all British teams on the rostrum, and very nearly all British drivers again, as we had in Budapest. And this is going to be a good celebration, I would say, with the champagne. And also, just final point, the Toms, they're in this championship fight.
They are, absolutely right. And it's not over yet. We still have 3 races, folks. 3 races until the end of the season. Of course, 2 of them coming at Barcelona. Then we have the big one, of course, the Monza 500. We've already had the Spa version, which was, of course, a fantastic race event that went the way of Levente Ravesh and Maxi Gertz. But now let's move on to the Pro-Am class.
Yes, and I think we have matched the most different winners in the Pro-Am category since, so that was 2017. We had 8 different winners in the Pro-Am category, and I do believe that Ernst Kirkmeyer and Jakob Altwey are our 8th different winner of the season in that category. So that is, well, again, just goes to show the ultra competitive nature of the Pro-Am category. And so for the first time, Maxim Kisilov and Alexei Nesov will climb onto the podium. And our championship leaders, Steve Janssen, Aaron Walker, retaking the championship lead from Valentin Pierberg and Dominic Baumann after losing it yesterday. And that is their 6th appearance on the podium so far this season. But Jakob Altwey and Ernst Kirkmeyer having to take the long route to the top step of the podium. And for Kirkmeyer and Altwey, it's a carbon copy of last year as well, because they won here in their wildcard appearance then as well.
I mean, Altwey is one here, you know, also overall. I mean, we're not just talking about Pro-Am class. He's been here and done it several times already. Of course, it was Albert Costa back in 2019 where they would go en route to becoming champions. Carlos presenting the trophies to our Pro-Am winners. Of course, Ernst Kirkmeyer, a fantastic result for him. Of course, we've seen him many occasions in the International GT Open over the years. Always great to see him back, and he is going to love that moment. Excellent performance from Steve Jans and Aaron Walker, definitely in a very strong title fight at the moment. And of course, Aaron Walker, the young man from Hereford, who was putting up roof trusses over the summer break, now in a very different set of affairs, driving a GT3 car here at Red Bull Ring.
Champagne being sprayed and lots of happy drivers there, of course. Great stuff again as the conversations in the pre-podium room.
Give us a wave.
Give us a wave. Go on.
Yay!
Go on.
There we are. We love that.
So it is the AM podium to come, and Michele Rugolo and Gino Forgione very much making up for yesterday's disappointment with a 7th victory of the season, which matches the record set by Jens Liebhauser and Florian Scholz in 2020, and also by Martin Conrad and Alexander Hrachawina in 2022. And they've still got 3 more opportunities to add to that roster as well. So they've already beaten the record for the most back-to-back wins, now for the most in a season in that category as well.
Of course, Alexander Hrachawina and Martin Conrad winning back in 2022 the title of AM champions. We just saw there, the reason there was a bit of smiling, we saw Michele Rugolo pulling on Marco Pulcini's overalls, almost saying, I think, you're wearing an Italian race suit in a McLaren car. Goodness me. But yeah, we're still trying to get used to Marco Polcini in a McLaren 720S as opposed to the Ferrari that he tends to drive. Of course, prior, obviously, with Eddie Cheever, of course.
We're not sure if Marco will be sticking around. Of course, Mark Sampson's had quite a few teammates this season, but well done to Amir Naran as well. It's back-to-back podium finishes for him in the AM category. And of course, Gino and Michele Rugolo, they retake the AM Championship lead. That's all from the Red Bull Ring. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time for the penultimate race of the season on the 20th of September.